regarding me being on both sides of the criminal justice system. My client is innocent until proven guilty. I'm continuously trying to reform the criminal justice system. God had a plan for me from the very beginning, and it started right here. I had my experience from the jailhouse, to God's house, to the courthouse, and I'm fighting on a daily basis. I lived here from the time I was 8 until 14, or 9 until 14. Are we there yet? We're here. As you can see, we live directly across from a highway, so this dirt was our background. This was our playground. We played in the street. You know, future was bright for us. I lived here for about 6 years, and just being back here is a humbling experience. So this is where I grew up. It was my mom. She was a single parent. 8 of us lived in this 2-bedroom duplex. We grew up very poor, but we had a lot of love. I was very close to my siblings. This tree brings back so many memories. We used to climb the tree, we hung our clothes out here in the line, and we played outside. Who would have thought that living in this environment, this drug-infested environment, I would have gone from this kid in the inner city to becoming an attorney. This is very humbling to be back here, knowing that God already had a plan for me from the very beginning. This is where it all went down. So this was our backyard, and I remember my brother and I, we used to walk around this neighborhood and get wood from abandoned buildings, bring the wood back here, and build our own clubhouses. You know, my mom and her 7 children, it was 8 of us, so she slept in her room with my sister. The 4 older sisters slept in the other room. My brother slept in the living room. It was a crowded home. We used to wash clothes in the bathtub. We used to, you know, eat. We ate, but it wasn't eating out. She did what she could do with what she had. I remember we were here. It was Hurricane Andrew. She had to work, 1996, I believe. And there was a big tree right over here, and it fell onto our ceiling and on the roof, and we survived, thank God, but she couldn't be there with us. So it's just memories like that that just come back. That's my school, guys. That was Mommy's middle school and elementary school. Home of the Mustang. So we're standing outside of my middle school and my old elementary school, and this brings back so many memories. But one of the memories that stuck with me the most was one day I was in school, and inside my classroom the teacher was going around the room asking everyone what they wanted to be. I was in the 4th grade, so I was about 10 years old. And I was sitting towards the back, and everyone was saying the same thing: doctor, lawyer, policeman. And at the time I just wanted to be different. So I remember looking up in the classroom and seeing a board of presidents, so I told her I want to be president. And instead of her going on to the next child, she said, well, what do you see up there? And I said, a bunch of men. And then her next question was, what else do you see? And that's when I said, they're all white. Now at that point I knew exactly where she was going, so she said, choose another profession. And I can't tell you what I said, but I know what I felt. I cried all the way home. And I'll never forget, my mom was like, you know, what are you crying about? I couldn't even get the words out, but when I finally got the words out, my mom was like, you can be whatever you want to be. So from that point on, it was Operation I Will Become President, but I started working backwards, you know what I'm saying? So I started saying, okay, well, all presidents, or at least most of them, were lawyers. And that's kind of what really started the ground for me trying to become a lawyer. And years later, here I am. When I was in college, I was sentenced to a period of incarceration. But at the time, I was also pregnant with my son. So they moved me out of general population into solitary confinement. And it was at that pivotal moment is when I realized that I was at a crossroads in my life. It was either I was heading down a path of destruction and being a habitual offender, or I can truly become this attorney that I so badly wanted to be when I was a young girl. And I chose that route. So I was saved when I was incarcerated. I gave my life to Christ, and I kind of went on the path of becoming an attorney. So in hindsight, being incarcerated was the best thing that could have happened to me. In the moment, I was crushed. I was depressed. It was the worst feeling ever. And that was one of my lowest points. But now this is what propels me to zealously advocate for my clients, because I've experienced that. So I lawyer literally from the heart and from experience. So when I first was introduced to the criminal justice system, obviously I was introduced as a defendant. So the way I was treated, even from my attorney, it was as if, you know, I was just another number, I was just another file, I was just another client. And so I vowed not to treat my clients that way. My clients have my cell number. Of course, I give them rules, but I see each and every one of my clients as more than a retainer fee. They are a brother, they're a sister, they're a mother, and they have a future. And I know that the collateral consequences attached to being incarcerated or being convicted, it's enormous. So it's my job to put my client in the best position possible. I'm going to make sure that the case was investigated properly and they're just treated fairly. On the other side of the criminal justice system, what I realize is it's not a lot of us. It's not a lot of minorities. I'm often mistaken after doing 100 trials, over 100 trials, I'm often mistaken as the clerk or the court reporter or the victim, because no one assumes that an African American can be not only an attorney, but an owner of her own law firm and employ others. So we have to my goal is to shift that idea that especially women in a male, white dominated profession, we can too be attorneys, both prosecutors and defense attorneys. So my experience from being a defendant to being an attorney, I bring forth that zealous representation. All of this ties back into my upbringing. Just because you were born in the inner city, just because you come from a single parent background, just because your teachers tell you you can't be this, you can't do that, that's a lie. Because I'm a living example. I'm living proof that you can go from the jailhouse, you can go from the inner city, from a broken home, and still become a top attorney. And I want to inspire as many people as I can. Keep pushing. No matter how many times you fail, get back up, try again. It's not over until God says it's over. And if I can instill that to my clients and to my children, it's a work in progress, and I'm going to continue to work.
And as a black man doing that money, protect our sons, yeah. Modern ain't KKK. Kill a black man every day. You kill a black man for holding the child, kill girl, kill white heat in his garage, Armand twisted like crochet.